You know what, let's keep it informal. I'm going to talk story with you guys about branding. And I think it's really great. I'll tell you a little bit of my history, but I spent many, many years in the mainland, and they always would say, hey, tell people right up front, you know, what's your credibility, what's your credentials, what have you done, right? So I'm going to do that really quickly. You can take a look at the brands that I've worked with, you know, big brands that you may recognize, national brands, international brands. And on the left-hand side are all the companies that I've worked for and or like with Mana that I represent now. So enough about that. Because what I think is really cool and important, and especially relevant in Hawaii, is not what have you done, but who are you? Who are you inside? Where do you come from? Let's talk story about that. We care more about where you graduated high school than where you went to school in the mainland, right? So here's the interesting stuff. 1880, fifth generation Portuguese standing in front of you. Purebred, pure Portuguese. I don't know if you should applaud for that, okay? Because when they told me how much time I had today, I'm like, I'm nervous. I'm so nervous. They're like, what are you talking about? I mean, are you afraid of public speaking? Are you kidding? I'm Portuguese. That's in our DNA. I'm nervous about 20 minutes and cramming 100 slides into it. No. So back in the 1880s, right, 1878 was the first wave of Portuguese immigration. My great-great-grandparents came from the Azores. Both of them came separately, went to the Big Island to work on the plantation and in the railroad, got married, and boom, I'm here. It's an interesting story, I think, because my name, WavenDean, comes from the tidal wave that took out 2/3 of Hilo Town in what year, everyone? 1960. And so I was born a few months after the tidal wave hit in May, and I think that's enough clue for you about how old I am and what birthday I just celebrated, okay? So I was named after that tidal wave, and I'll tell you the longer story, and that's me, and born and raised on the Big Island. And growing up, the things that I really cared about the most as a little boy were Tonka toys, if everybody remembers those, military vehicles, especially like tanks and trucks and things, and making models, right? And then kind of looking up at the stars, which is really easy to do in Hawaii, and wondering, what are we all here to do? Kind of that early spiritual awakening. I'm like, what's it all about? What are we here to do? Why are you in the middle of this beautiful place in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, right? So figure out how those two all work together, especially the military one with kind of that early spiritual stuff, right? And then going away to college, the other thing I was really interested in, being a Virgo, right, Libra, was anything that was health-related or medical-related. So my initial interest in going to college was like pre-med. I wanted to be a naturopathic doctor. But every time we were in cadaver class, I was sketching out the body rather than doing dissection. So I wasn't really kind of oriented that way. I would always sneak off to the art class. And I was also interested in technology and all the things that were happening, all the exciting new stuff, right? All that big world that was out there. So went to college on the mainland, ended up in Northern California, and that's an interesting place, San Francisco Bay Area specifically, right? And that's where I just came back home from after 25 years based in San Francisco doing this kind of branding, design, marketing work, both nationally and internationally. And so when I got to the mainland, I was looking up at all of these big companies, all of these big things that were there, right? The size and the scale was so different, right? And I happened to fall into relationship with this little company called Apple way back when. And actually, it has a serendipitous story there of how things happen in your life in a really magical way, right? When you look back, you think about, gosh, who's orchestrating all those little moments where 10 seconds earlier or 30 minutes later, I would not have met that person or be in that situation. And that magic is really what's behind the name of the company, Mana. That serendipity, that magic, that spiritual, that divine guidance, if you will, that operates in all of our lives, personally and professionally. So returned home in 2005 from San Francisco for family reasons. Mom and auntie, older, elderly, you know the story. And basically, what am I going to do? 25, quarter century of this expertise, what am I going to do in Hilo Town, of all places, right? And, the message came from the creator, hey, trust me, we got a plan. We got the thing, just go with the program, go with the flow. And look at, here I am. So everyone asks, what's up with the outfit, right? And perfect table topic, right? Can a person be a brand? And you all answered in your own way. Well, I wanted to give you the true insider story. And this is a friend of mine who's a fantastic illustrator in San Francisco. I worked with her at Apple. She did this, and she said, WavenDean, that's what you look like when you're in the city. And then she did this one when I was leaving to come back home to Hawaii. So you see on the far right side, myself, my wife, and my family, it's an amalgamation of kind of both. And honoring the design of the mainland in San Francisco and an honoring of Hawaii, right? So put them both together. Today, we're going to talk about branding. And branding is just really one component, folks, of business success, as you all know. There's so many other things that are involved in making a business successful. The product, the quality of the product, the pricing, the customer service, all the other things you're going to do. We're just going to focus on one slice of that and talk story about branding today, okay? Everybody can read that, right? Frank Koss is going to be all over me. He's like, hey, you were in my class. I told you, don't make it less than 14, 15 points. The point about this is that you can talk to any expert about what branding is, and you can get the definition. And I didn't really want you to be able to read the slide, because the truth about branding is that when you talk about logos and things, because that was the topic of today, right? It comes from all kinds of different places. I took a little cell out of that for the flyer that we used today. And you can kind of read through that. And I love Scott Adams, because if you've ever worked in a business environment, he so much captures the experience of some of that, doesn't he? And so the boss is like talking to his art guy, and he's like, art is not that easy, you arrogant and he's like, well, what if the logo is inside a rectangle, right? And the thing about brands and logos is logo is something that you can wear, right? A brand is something that you experience and that you live. Boom, right there. You feel the fundamental difference about what that's about? When we take a look at what we're going to talk about today, there's kind of quadrants I wanted to represent. Again, this is a handout that I can send to folks. Looking at core brand and core brand identity, right, which a logo is a part of. Looking at what branding is all about, and there's a physical and a virtual world to branding. A huge, new virtual world that we need to all know about the nuances of, right? What's brand marketing and advertising and everything that's under there? And then we have to talk about sales at some point too. Because at some point there's some interaction, there's some process of money exchanging hands and services being exchanged, right? And the things that go along with that. So, are you guys brand experts? You guys all think you're brand experts? Who here is a brand expert? Who here is not a brand expert? Folks, table topic. You're all brand experts. How many of you woke up this morning and decided what you were going to wear? How many of you woke up this morning and put a phone or a PDA or something in your pocket, right? And I got a BlackBerry. How many of you decided what kind of car you're driving this morning? All those individual decisions you made about what you were going to wear, eat, consume, represent, associate with, were all brand decisions that were conscious or unconscious, right? And you made those decisions based upon your value systems, whatever you felt was important, whatever you're trying to represent, because by extension, all those things represent who you are in some way, who you are as a brand to the outside world. And if you work for a company and get a paycheck, you represent that company even if you don't really consciously think about it as a brand ambassador. And if you work for yourself, you definitely represent the company that is yourself as a brand ambassador. So folks, I may be up here talking to you just because this is my kuleana and it's something I love and have loved all the way back. It's my passion. It's what I love to do. I go in the supermarket, I look at designer packages. My wife is like, can we go yet? You don't even buy the cereal. And I'm like, but check out what they've just done with, you know? And I go to the gym and I'm like reading magazines and ripping them out, and people are thinking I'm the craziest kid because I'm looking at ad design and how ads are constructed and what the brand architecture and the messaging and things are, right? So I may have it my way, but you are all brand experts in your own world, and you're all brand ambassadors of yourself and the companies that you represent, okay? Check these two people out if you can read this. On the left-hand side is the LinkedIn page from none other than Keanu Brunner. And if you don't believe that people can be brands, you better meet this guy, okay? And the one on the right is Tom Trenz from HighNet Associates. And again, if you don't believe that people can be brands, meet this folk. Take a look at their LinkedIn pages, right? And take a look at what's happening in the social media world, which Tom can speak much more of. An explosion of brand representation is happening, both personally, from individuals themselves, and representing companies, right? Can a person be a brand? Anybody know about this fella? Talk about the most unlikely person, if you would, to be a brand. I heard him speak in Hilo as his only speaking presentation about a year and a half ago. I took my boys. Amazing guy, Nick Vasijic, flies all over the world. He has no arms and legs, right? Unbelievable website. And he has a brand that represents transformation because he comes and talks to you about a Christian perspective on transformation, right? How about this one? Anybody know that person? That person represents an amazing brand, a very strong brand right here in Hawaii, right? Our own person, Kathy Lee. And that brand also, at the core of it, represents transformation. Maybe potentially a different way than Nick does. But if you experience Kathy and you experience what she and her team put together, it's amazing what that brand does and what that brand represents. Every single great brand that we have that we love in the world, and I'm drinking from one of them, can't start my day without the Starbucks, right? Typically has some kind of visionary people, founder and people that they infect with that, right? Visionary and passion are the key things when you take a look at what are potentially okay brands, good brands, and great brands, right? And especially after that founder passes or leaves, how does that mana, if you will, get transferred over to all of these people? And this is especially challenging things because it's one thing if you got a little mom and pop shop down in Beretania, but what if you're national? And what if you're international? How do you take that mana and extend that across and have everybody connect with that and represent the brand from that? It's pretty amazing, right? That you can go worldwide and get pretty much the same kind of McDonald's experience that you do here, right? Whether you love the brand or not. That they're able to do that, not just on a functional level, right? But also kind of an aesthetic level and other things too. Starbucks, right? Peter Schultz took a trip, you know, little mom and pop coffee shop. Did you guys ever know that was the original Starbucks identity? And that they had to make it more cool, you know, more able to be in public. What is that word? PC, right? So that's the evolution of what happened to it. On a trip to Italy, he saw what the coffee culture of Europe was like and said, you know what, America really needs this. This visionary thing that he had. And he said, I'm going to bring that back to America. Started accumulating little mom and pop coffee shops up in Seattle and bought out his partners that he was in with the other one. And that's hence where Starbucks was born from. And we now know where it's gone today, right? So when you take a look at a logo, and it's interesting, I'm really drawing a contrast here, folks, but there's really no right or wrong, okay? It's kind of, this is just my approach, and this is just the way that I do my business, and the people we work with align with it and like that philosophy, but there's plenty of other approaches or philosophies and perspectives on branding, and that's great. So from a logo, I really look at it at many times when people create a logo. It's really about what you do, where you're at now, refers to the brand. It's tactical and transactional, okay? When you take a look at what a brand is versus something that you can wear, right, as a logo. When you take a look at a brand in the bigger sense of it, it represents who you are, how you do it, where you're going. It tells a story. It's transformational. Is that image, those two contrasts, kind of tell you a little bit of that perspective, the caterpillar to the butterfly? It's interesting, everybody's motivated at different levels, right? We all have this reptilian motivation that we have to satisfy first, right? And there was a 3-letter word for the one that's at the bottom, if you can read it. But I thought, given the current mixed environment, I thought perpetuation of the species might get the message across also, right? Many different motivations for what we do in the world and why we consume products and services and brands. And then as you go up higher on the vibrational scale, you get into those angelic motivations, right? Service to other, love, caring, empathy, all of those kinds of things. Well, Waven, what does this have to do with branding? Hang on, it's coming. What creates that first brand impression, right? think about these kinds of things. What creates that first brand impression that you give? What creates that first brand impression that companies give, right? Your products, the marketing that's being done across the physical and virtual world, and the reputation and the talk story that people have about you is very powerful, right? And why do branding at all? You see the reasons there. One of the interesting things that people don't look at when they look at branding is that, especially in the current kind of environment we have going on right now, where there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of concern, there's a lot of that kind of energy and vibration going on, brands really reduce risk for a lot of people. They know what they're going to get. They're safe, they're secure, they know what they're going to get. So this risk mitigation factor is really key for why companies do branding and do branding consistently, right? Taking a look at the components of successful branding. There's brand essence, and we'll talk more about that. There's the core brand identity, which a logo is a part of, because there's a visual, a verbal, and even a greater part of it. There's brands that they spend time on what it sounds like. BMW has engineers that think about what it sounds like when the door closes, what the muffler sound is like. In fact, Tom Trenz loves his Miata so much, right? More than I know. His wife and his Miata, I think they're probably about equal. But when the Japanese were developing the Miata, they looked at all of the other exhaust sounds from sports cars and tuned that Miata exhaust to sound just right when it came into the marketplace so that it would sound like a Miata, and the brand would have a sound to it. There's also brands that have a taste to it, right? And we all know what those are like. So this visual verbal thing extends depending upon what the brand is representing, right? Brand expression, and that's everything from business cards to websites, from the physical to the virtual world, brand marketing, and then all the other things we're not going to talk about today, but are equally important. Sales, the people that represent that brand, and we think about our employees, but rarely do we think about the partners in the ecosystem that it takes to deliver our brand experience to the customer. All of the people in this room that talked about, hey, I'm there to support WavenDean, they're all my brand partners, right? They're all people that I work with in one way or another. They're all part of that extended MANA expression and that MANA delivery capability, depending upon what we're doing for the client, right? And they show up to support you in so many different ways. Customer service, pre, post, during, and post, and that's what Dr. Tom DeWitt is an expert on. Product quality and relevance, cost basis, etc. All of those things and potentially more add up to be what the brand experience is about. Why is that important? This fella, really interesting guru, you know, he's passed now, Walter Landor, said a really powerful thing way back when he really established a lot of the tenets of branding with people like Saul Bass and others, real giants in the industry back in the 50s and 60s, right? He said products are built in the factory, but brands are built in the mind. Perfectly relevant for that time. Guess what now we have to add? Brands are now built in the heart. It's not enough to be built in the factory. It's not enough to make an incredibly excellent car, even if it's equal to the Japanese. Ask GM about that challenge. Because GM lost America's heart share, except for things like Corvette or a few of their specific offerings, a long time ago. And GM's challenge right now is how to get back that share of heart for Americans, right? So to the point that they're even running a new deal right now. You guys heard, right? Buy a car in 60 days, you don't like it, return it, no cost. Hello? That's what we got to do, because this is so important, because all of us are in love with Toyota and the other foreign providers, right? Really interesting. Just because you're at the top of your game as a brand does not mean that's always the case it's going to be. In Landor, we used to use a famous slide during presentations. We took a look at the snapshot of the top 10 companies and brands in the early 1900s. And there was only one that's still on that top 10 list. Anybody can guess who? They make aircraft engines. Here's a clue. GE, General Electric. That's it. There were railroads, steel, all of these other titans of industry, gone. Who was on that top 10 list with GE, who makes locomotives and jet engines? Google. Where's their factory? Where are they making jet engines at Google? All of these interesting new brands were in that top 10, right? Amazing the way the world's at. So when you're looking at your personal brand, whether you're the individual, you're the company, or the company that you represent, that you're the brand ambassador for, you got to think about, if you want to go from good to great, how do we get more share of heart for our customers. And then taking it even further beyond that, how do we take the brand experience we work so hard to create? Love Starbucks, good brand experience. Add customer love. I'm in love with them. Spend a lot of money there. My wife does not want to see the credit card bill. And how do we create the customer experience where the customer now owns the brand? Who owns Starbucks, by the way? Who do you guys think owns Starbucks? It's a trick question, just like the same one I asked you before about, are you guys brand experts? You all do. Because when you go to Starbucks and you give them $3 or $4 or whatever it is, or McDonald's, and you give them $1.50, and you give them this, and they give you that, you're giving them whatever represents the life energy it took for you to earn this to equal that. For me, it's like $10 an hour. So when I go, I'm giving them half an hour of my time to buy a Starbucks Frappuccino with all the extras and maybe something else, right? So when you think about what you're doing when you're buying brands and consuming products and services, you're trading life energy that just translates into something that looks like this. I wish it all tasted as good as this. It's in your goodie bags, by the way. You're taking this, right? And you're showing them, I love you because I'm willing to take my life energy that looks like money and buy your products and services. That's what it's about on a vibrational, energetic level. Ever thought about it like that? So really great brands have their customers carrying them in their heart. And they do cool stuff, right? Brand experience equals a positive, can equal a positive customer experience. Hey, I'm helping you with your bags. You come to the restaurant, you're loaded down with all the kid stuff, the diapers. I've been there, I know it. The hostess helps you out. Tom and I do this in a customer service workshop. Amazing to see the interactive experience he gives during the customer service workshops when he gives them scenarios to act out like that, right? To see the emotion that happens. Hey, let me help you. Protect you from the elements, right? All those things that advertisers try to tap into at the highest level. And if this is a couple that's flying Singapore Airlines, right? Totally being taken care of. And then here's a whole different medium of advertising. Email blast from Starbucks. Hey, there's some new apps for your iPhone. Like I don't go enough. When you take a positive customer experience, it can grow into brand loyalty. And what happens is that stuff you see above the soil grows really, really deep roots. And in fact, this is the reason we use this metaphor for the business cards, the brand identity for Tom's company, Kumupa'a, in there. Because when you really add incredible customer service in the way that he talks about it and trains you on it, you provide such a deep root structure that it's 2 to 3 times what you see above the soil. That tree is so rooted that you could have a tidal wave like brought me in, or a hurricane or whatever, and that tree is going to bend and give, but come right back and play into the market, right? And that's what amazing customer service and customer love does for every brand, whether it's an individual or it's GE making aircraft engines and stuff and locomotives all over the world. It allows that brand to flex in challenging times, and it allows it to come right back when that storm potentially passes, right? And be stronger. Well, all the other brush in the forest has been burnt out because it didn't have the root structure. Those redwood trees still stand, right? They take the heat. They get a little singed, but they're still standing. That's one of the reasons you do it. This customer loyalty creates brand, what folks? Can you read it? Evangelist. When you're passionate, you're in love with something, you're an evangelist. You can't stop talking about it. At Apple, it was amazing. This is really one of the key secrets of how they developed a brand, apart from great products and all that. But trust me, there were some times there were not great products. When the Mac Plus first came out, didn't have a hard drive in it, right? Real challenge. And they said to Steve Jobs, all the marketing, he's like, hey, these things are not selling like I thought they would be. And what's going on, you guys, marketing expert? And they're like, hey, Steve, people want a hard drive in it. These floppy things get old after a while. I was like, yeah, I don't believe it. So that kind of arrogance, right, not listening to the customers, is you really have to turn it around. Do the products right. Get this kind of result where people become your brand evangelists, brand advocates, brand ambassadors. Interesting question. Would your customers wear your brand identity on a t-shirt, hat, or even get a tattoo of it? These are the brands that are just on my brandscape, and some of them are smaller, some of them larger. Brands don't just get onto each of your brandscape and stay there. They change. When there was a kid, Tonka Toys was pretty big on my thing, and all the guys that made the little, you know, the military stuff, right? So you take a look at what brands are on your personal consumption landscape, and think about your customers or potential prospects, and does your brand even show up on their brandscape? It's a pretty sobering question. And does it show up like Zippy shows up for me, where I'll go there just for the Simon? Or does it show up for a brand that I love and will be ambassador and an advocate for, right? This piece of brand essence is really the acorn that grows into the oak tree if nurtured well. Here's another one. I put the fig leaf on because, again, the mixed audience. Brand essence. Where does it come from? I love this quote from Michelangelo. Totally humble, but he got it. He understood that even with his amazing talent, he did not create that. He allowed it to come forth. It's a fundamentally different way of looking at it. Because when people come to me and say, hey, can you create my brand for me? And I'm like, no. And they're like, what? Wait, I thought you were a branding guy. And I'm like, we'll create your brand. We'll release that together. We'll talk story. We'll figure out what the essence truly is. And what we'll do is put that forth in a way into the marketplace that we can reduce the vibrational and proximity gap, and that's called brand marketing, to your potential prospects and customers. Oh, there was one interesting thing in here I'll point out. We like to call what we do monetizing our customers, clients' brands, because everybody thinks, hey, can you help me monetize and make money off my brand? And we're like, before you can ever get there, figure out how you can monetize your brand and touch the hearts of the people that you come into contact with. You do this, and this will easily happen. Okay, so there's a well-known, and we're still in process with this, plastic surgery, cosmetic surgery clinic in town. You guys are probably aware of them. Tom Trends introduced me to them. We're working together on this hand in hand. And you can see this is how they represent, this is their logo, if you will, their current one, how they're representing their core brand identity in my language, right? Pretty interesting. Do you think there's anything happening here that causes that figure to want to run away from the flames at all? We came in through Tom and did a initial exploration of things that would capture potentially what is the essence of what they do. Not necessarily what they do, because they operate on bodies, right? They create a new looking you with things and augmentation and stuff. And I said, you know, I'd love to do this fully in trade, because given my age, there's a long checklist of things that I want to work on. And they said, no, that list is too long. So we'll just do it for cash. Okay, so we did a full range of exploration. In many cases, we go, is this interesting, you guys, to show you a case? Okay. Oh, Portuguese. Okay, so we go close in, what's called close in and then far out, right? So the close in stuff would naturally be, okay, a body, but a body as representative as you can, okay? So that range, and I don't know if you can see the detail, but I want to show you the full range. And then we took a look at things that are about transformation, because that's really what they're in the business for also. Look, every brand is in the business of transformation. It's about getting somebody from where they're at right now in whatever level of success that's defined as, to the place over there in whatever level of success that is defined as, right? And Kathy Lee does it her individual way, Nick Vasijic does it in his way, and this cosmetic center, which is one of the best, I am told, in Hawaii and Oahu, does it in their special way, okay? And they were inheriting the legacy of a company that existed before, even more heavy. So we took a look at, you know, that transformation. Hey, what's the most amazing transformation thing we know? Caterpillars, butterflies, right? Okay, let's look at that. Right now, it's not so much even kind of the visuals and stuff. We're trying to get a concept. We're trying to get an essence across to them, right? So you can see some exploration there. Taking a look at the different facets of jewelry, a diamond, right? Because there's so many different facets to beauty and how that's represented. Taking a look at snowflakes. What? Snowflakes in Hawaii? Every snowflake is individual, right? Like fingerprint. So, and then right at the end, flowers, okay? Every flower doesn't really look at other flowers. If you're an orchid, I don't think orchids look at hibiscus and be like, wow, they're more beautiful than us. Or plumerias are envious, of, tuberoses, right? Each flower is beautiful and individual in itself, just like every person that clinic would work with to express their own inner beauty. It's a whole different way to define beauty and cosmetic surgery, right? All right, so let's go in there, talk some essence stuff, right? This is what they chose. Boom, hands down. Love the way you did the figure. It represents what we do. We operate on bodies. We make them more beautiful. Let's not get too specific. Let's not have a person's picture, right? They changed the name of the company, and then we're working with taglines, descriptor lines, and things like that, okay? You all like it? Is that the one you would have picked?
They're in my building. They went with the flower.
Guess what? They came back to us a few days later. We thought about it. This is really what we are. You're right. Right or wrong, doesn't matter. What you said struck us. We're really about representing each individual woman's, for the most part they work on women, but they do men also, each individual person's inner beauty and bringing that forth in whatever way they want to express themselves. And that's not about the body per se, it's about the energy inside and how that comes forth. So we actually custom created that little orchid. Doesn't quite exist like that, but we moved some petals around, so we did our own little cosmetic surgery in the orchid. And there's one next to it that's not yet fully opened and budded, right? So it's the process of transformation also, the caterpillar butterfly kind of metaphor, if you will, right? Now, in and of that self, that doesn't tell you that they're a cosmetic surgery center. But with the verbal support, beauty redefined, right? Let's redefine how we talk about beauty and how it comes forth. And we are, descriptor line, tactically, what do? Hawaii's premier cosmetic surgery center. And then here's what they started from. What do you think? Yeah. Subtle improvement? You guys, you need to take a look at creating branding. Okay, so that's core brand identity, trying to capture that little acorn, that essence, that mana, if you will, that exists in every single brand, every single person, right? And it takes a little more work to do that. You got to listen. You got to talk story. You got to hang out. You got to vibe it, right? That's energetic alignment with those different clients and those different businesses. And then you got to do branding, which is creating a compelling brand experience, engaging the six senses. Don't forget about that, folks. We talked about the sound of that Miata muffler. We talked about the taste of the food and the experience, right? And we also, there's a vibrational thing. You guys walk into a store and you're like, hey, I can hang out here. There's other places you're going and you're like, I'm in and I'm out. You don't even know why, right? There's a sixth sense that's operating, right? That is an amalgamation of all of those and more. You got to look at how it touches all of those things, right? You guys love these models? Totally Virgo based. Appropriate and relevant is something I keep hitting all the time, because you can say all this stuff, but it doesn't apply all the time, all the places, one size fits all. It's specific to brands and sometimes timing of those brands in the marketplace and the demographic and the psychographic and the generation that they're going after, the target audience, all that stuff. There's no way I'm going to encapsulate in this short time all that stuff. So I'm going to give you just a little taste of it. Looking at brand essence. Then we look at the strategy of how that goes into the marketplace, right, across those touch points. Then we develop the core brand identity, and then all of those things get drilled down to, because those are all potential touch points, right? Huge, long laundry list. So long that there's no one I know that is an expert in any of that. Even if you go to a company like Landor, they bring in partners to do that, whether inside the company or outside the company. I frankly stop when it gets to the virtual stuff, and I say to my German friend, Tom, help me out. Come on in. Take it to the website. Take it online, okay? And he's amazing. If you guys can go speak of Tom Trends, HighNet Associates, all right? Anything where the brand goes into the digital world, that's his Kuleana, and that's what we partner on. Okay, how does it apply to the New Ferguson Clinic? This is their current business card. This is what's in progress. A new front of the business card, and two versions of new backs of the business card. One reinforcing that individuality, and the other one showing kind of tactically some of the things and procedures that they do, right? Folks, if all you have when you go out on a presentation is your business card, you had better be able to tell your story and show some stuff right off your business card. Any business card that doesn't have a back to it is like a magazine, and Karen will tell you that, where you just give away the front back cover. And if you're in publishing, you know that sometimes the back cover is the most expensive thing because there's no masthead on it. It's full space, right? It costs more than the front cover. And we do that all the time with our business cards. If there's no back to your business card, and it doesn't cost that much to print it, talk to the Valenti people, talk to Rescue people. It doesn't cost that much more to print the business card on the back, right? If you're missing the back opportunity to message, you're missing a huge opportunity. Taking a look at the ads that they're going to have to place. These ads are going in yellow pages and places where they're not going to be changed for a year. There's got to be something that stays consistent over time. That's the one on the left. I hope you know that that's not the one we did. The one on the left. Tom's like, waving, you better. The one on the right is what we're moving to. All this stuff is still in progress. Once you do all of your branding stuff, get that expression and everything, guess what happens to that circle? The website becomes the center of the universe. Becomes his world there. Everything you do in the physical world, as much as I'm an old school guy and I love print and tangible stuff and physical stuff, and Tom's like, hey, we got to buy a new toner. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of print out a lot of stuff. I got binders, everything. I'm like, you know, I travel with huge cartons of printed stuff. I love old school stuff, tangible things. And he's like totally virtual. But when all my physical stuff, all the physical branding we do goes out into the world, it does one key essential thing, unless somebody's going to call you right then from an ad, drive traffic, right to, you know, taking a phone call, emailing you, they're going to go check out your website. And your website had better be representative of the experience, not just the look and feel. That's price of entry, folks. It better be representative of the experience of that brand. That's the website they have now on the left. What we're going to is what's on the right. We develop what's called the website skins. I turn those skins, which is really just kind of the look and feel layout, if you will, to Tom and his team. And I got two Toms, so I got to be directed to the right one. That's the mock-up of what we're doing for their soon-to-be launched site. Still revisions to be had on the right-hand side, before and after. Little evolution. You think they'll be able to have permission now to have a different discussion about what beauty truly means and represents? You think they'll differentiate against all of the other, and they're not just competing with other plastic surgery companies here in Oahu, right? Small market. They're looking at nationally and internationally because people come here, have a vacation, have a little nip and tuck, go home, looking completely different. It's like, wow, Hawaii's transformational for you, right? So it's an international audience that they're talking to, right? It's not just Americans. We're talking about who else would find those aesthetics, you know, and then go through the site, et cetera, et cetera. All right, brand marketing. I think I said it before. The essence of brand marketing is putting your offering, your brand experience into the marketplace across all of the appropriate and relevant print and virtual deliverables, physical and virtual deliverables, to close the vibrational gap between you and your potential customers and prospects, right? It's an energy thing, folks. It's not about ads and brochures and all of that kind of stuff. That's just what it looks like. That's just what it's represented. It's a vibrational thing that you put out there and those people are attracted to. They feel your story, they feel the heart connection, and then they take further action, typically by looking at your website, right? That whole laundry list of things that's out there, right? It's a layering effect. You really do marketing so that you can do all the stuff below so that the stuff above is what it appears to look like, right? But there's so much work and effort that goes below in terms of layering that. Mauna Kea is a fantastic example. Every time I look up and I see Mauna Kea, I'm like, brand marketing, that's what it's about. Tallest mountain in the world from ocean floor. It took millions and millions of years for that to layer each lava flow before it rose, right? So here comes along Everest. It's like, come on, what do you got? What, you're showing 14,000 feet above sea level? What do you got? And Mauna Kea is like, I'm so big and so heavy with my sister Mauna Loa, we create a depression in the Earth's crust. What do you got? Granite tectonic plates, Mount Everest? Talk to me about brand marketing. I've been layering my message and building this island for millions and millions of years, and you had two plates hit together and, you know, that's where you got your height. That's brand marketing, right? And everybody says, oh, you're an overnight success. They tell Kathy Lee, gee, you're so lucky, you're an overnight success. And something she said so powerfully that I remembered in one of the presentations, she said there's a 4-letter word for luck. It's called work. And I'm like, amen, sister. Marketing is work and consistency, and then you know what? Boom, it rises above and it's like overnight success. Wow, you're so successful. They don't look at all the things you've been doing to create that success, right? One other thing about marketing. Everybody talks about demographics. Folks, if you're not looking at generational approach or genographics, it's something you need to look at. There's been talks about this in town. It was really powerful, right? There's so many different ways to slice your target audience. Don't just try to put these people in a box. Each generation relates to messaging differently. Look at your kids. You don't think they know more about computers and what's going on online than you do in a different way, and you think you're going to message to that Gen Y, Gen X audience in the same way you do to boomers like me. Oh my God, like me. It's hard to get used to that. They're going to send me my AARP membership notice soon. But, right? Doesn't that just seem common sense? Look at generational effect, right? Last thing, sales. Why do people buy? Look at the reptilian motivations for behavior. Look at the angelic motivations for behavior. They're almost all there, plain in contrast and duality, when we make purchasing and brand purchasing decisions, right? And there's a whole way to look at this. David Wilkinson from Sandler Training got an interesting perspective on sales. Look at people's need state. They call it pain. I'd rather call it a need state, right? Right now, if you went home and you found a foot of water in your basement, guess what? You really need a plumber right now, right? Nobody typically wakes up and says, gee, my logo and my brand, yeah, they're broken. I'm going to call the plumber, the brand plumber right now. There's different need states for the different things that we do. All right, brand marketing ideas. You want to stop now? 5 more minutes? Your call. This is where I'm going to give tips and tricks. But it's your call. I've gone over now 10 minutes.
Tips and tricks.
Tips and tricks, real fast. Okay. How's the Portuguese moving? Pretty good, huh? This question, this metaphorical thing I asked, is the oak tree in the acorn? That's the essence question. Look at what oak tree your brands all have that are embodied just as an acorn right now, and how do you nurture it to get it out, to become the full fruition, not just above what you can see, but really that root structure below, right? So look at essence-based stuff, okay? A lot of books out there about what's important, the reason for being, you know, this whole approach with what's going on in the economy. Brands are really having to express why they exist, right? Not just what they're selling, but what's the bigger gestalt of their existence. And touch people, again, at that heart level, right? Recommendations, you know, when we look at, you can see I'm pulling each of these little circles out, right? And that's something you can do too. If you email me, I'll send you that little model. You can do that for yourself. Pull each of the little circles and write down a list of things you can do under each one. Things you can do personally, and then things you might need assistance or partnership for, right? All the places that you can advertise, and don't just think Hawaii, mainland, international, right? All these other things you do, they're going to drive things to your website. Really know that. So when people say, hey, Waven, can we create a great advertising or marketing campaign? I'm like, let's take a look at your site. Is it worthy of spending the money to drive the traffic to it? If not, then spend the money on the website first before you do any direct mail, any email blasts, any advertising or marketing. Don't do it until the website is ready to receive them into your home. I know these folks are in the room. Love what you guys are doing in print. I just wanted to tell you, I pulled this example out. I really like what Central Pacific Bank is doing in their advertising, okay? Really the heritage piece and what they're bringing forth, nice work. And I look at all the work that's being done locally, and some stuff stands out, a lot doesn't. Compliments to you folks, nice work. And what the agency that you're working with, they're doing good stuff. Okay, when we look at networking, interest and affinity groups, take a read on that. There's people from those organizations in this room, Better Business Bureau, the Chamber of Commerce, BNI, etc. Start doing this. And it's interesting because I was at Danielle Lum's presentation last night. She spoke in here before on PR. Fantastic lady. And she's like, Waven, you haven't been doing this for 25 years. You've been doing this for a quarter of a century. She goes, that's PR. Just the change from how many years to like breaking it down and associated with something bigger. She's like, that's PR. One of the other things about marketing, folks, most people think that they do marketing to attract business. You also do marketing to qualify the business you want to attract. Interesting? You get that point? You put stuff out, and if it's truly representative for whether you're doing it, working with an agency or whoever, if it's truly representative of what your brand is about, it will attract some people and not attract other people. And that is the point also, okay? This is an interesting one on PR. This guy said, and they did a branding tattoo campaign for these people, actually physically on them for Air New Zealand. What did he say? My job is to get other people to do it, to talk about it. And if I've done that, if I got other people talking about it, I've done my job. Direct marketing and print, you can see some of the things there. Events and promotion, some of the things there. Website and online, if you're not doing analytics on your site, even if you're sending people to a beautiful site, you don't know what they're doing, how long they're staying, you gotta talk to somebody like Tom Trends and figure about getting analytics, because it's the only place that you can do marketing that you can get pretty much empirical evidence back about how long, where they go, when they go, etc. We do a direct marketing campaign. I can see on my site when people hit, and I can see how long they stay and where they go, right? So if you're doing any kind of marketing, advertising, you're paying for any outward bound messaging, you better have robust analytics on your site. Granted that the site is worthy of receiving that audience, right? And track what's going on, make adjustments over time. Customer experience, just a couple of touch points things here. I can't say enough about gifts and mahalo to people. And we went to hear John DeMartini from The Secret speak a couple weeks back, right? One of the most powerful things he said, write 1 or 2 thank you notes a day to your customers, past customers, friends, family, colleagues, whatever. But be in that energy of appreciation, because that will return. Customer service, so important. Companies you're going to find are going to stop cost cutting at some point, and they're going to turn around and really start focusing on what the customer experience is about. I left a few for you guys to fill in too, if you take this model. What's your story? Really figure that out. That's part of your essence. It takes a village. Last slide, you guys. No one is good enough to do it all on their own. And I know this from working with the top, biggest branding companies in the world. And I know what it takes to do it at that level. And that's why there's a whole keiretsu of different people, many of them in this room that I work with, that I could not do what I do without. And my compliments and my gratitude, my thank you, mahalo to you guys. All the words in Hawaiian for what that represents, right? Kathy said a powerful thing at her presentation on Saturday. She said, my team put this together. Even though she was the brand on stage, right, and she was the brand people came for, she understood it took a team of her people to put it together, that without them, you could have the most incredible brand in the world, but you do not create brand impact in the marketplace, right? And so Tom and I represent that in an interesting way. While we may be the 2 face guys you might or might not want to work with, right? There's all these other people that fill in. Ian, the videographer that I have today, best on island, best in Hawaii. He videotapes everything we do. These videotapes then go up on the website, right? All part of the brand network that we work with. Show people that. Let them know that there's a Verizon factor. When they buy you, they get all these other resources that you've pre-qualified that are the top in their field. That's pretty powerful. Mahalo.